You are now tuned in to Papi Chulo Radio, your web portal for the best in pop culture news and interviews.
My mother, what is the phrase? She isn't quite herself today.
This is a Papi Chulo Radio special announcement. PapiChuloRadio.com is currently looking to expand its web presence, and we're looking for your help. If you're a fan of Papi Chulo Radio and its signature series, please visit GoFundMe.com/PapiChuloRadio and help us with our campaign. Every dollar amount donated will be improving the Papi Chulo Radio experience and making it more interactive and user-friendly. We thank you in advance for your support. This has been a Papi Chulo Radio special announcement. We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming. The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to Summer Camp, a PapiChuloRadio.com and iTunes exclusive. Papi Chulo Radio, pop culture on demand. I'm your host and camp director, Maurice Gatewood. Tonight on Summer Camp, we're going to explore some of Hollywood's campiest flicks, cult classic motion pictures, and fan favorite films. Please welcome my co-hosts. Our director of residential life, the man from the future, Legionnaire.
One cannot behold the face of the Gorgon and live.
Alrighty then. And our assistant director, the hip-hop legend himself, Deadly.
That's right. Beam me up. Beam me up.
Okay. Our activity leader, the fabulous Vanetta Berry.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
And our first aid director, the man with the voice, the man with the golden voice, Damien Nova. What's going on, Damien?
Hey, baby, shit but a chicken wing up in the
See what I'm saying? Golden, baby, golden.
Platinum.
And I'm sorry, excuse me, double platinum. I'm sorry. And our head chef, Derek Anthony. What's cooking tonight, Derek?
Everything tastes better with a little Kentucky bourbon, I'm just telling you.
All right. Okay, y'all. Everybody's here. Roll call is done. So before we begin, here's one of our campers on our PA system with a few announcements on how you can interact with us via social media.
Thank you for the intro, and sorry for the microphone feedback. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PCR Summercamp. Follow us on Tumblr, summercamp-pcr.tumblr.com. Follow Papi Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube at Papi Chulo Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@PapiChuloRadio.com. Help support Papi Chulo Radio financially by visiting GoFundMe.com/PapiChuloRadio. Help support Papi Chulo Radio financially by visiting GoFundMe.com/PapiChuloRadio. Are you interested in joining the Papi Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@PapiChuloRadio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Poppy Chulo Radio Summer Camp and subscribe. Now, grab some popcorn and some snacks. It's time for your feature presentation. Back to you, camp counselors. Oh, not again. Sorry for the feedback.
Thank you. All right, it's time to fire up the film projector so that we can discuss 1956 Forbidden Planet. Here's the official synopsis of the film. When an Earth mission arrives on Altair 4, they find that Dr. Edward Morbius and his beautiful daughter, Altera, are the only survivors from the original expedition that had arrived some 20 years before. Morbius isn't exactly pleased to see them and would have preferred they not even landed their spaceship. He does his best to get them on their way, but Commander Abrams and his men soon face an invisible force leading them to believe that Morbius and the girl are in danger. Morbius claims to know nothing of other life on the planet, but does reveal that once existed a far superior race, now extinct, that left a huge subterranean industrial and scientific complex. So, they were like, "You in danger, girl?" All right. So, as usual, I will ask, had anyone seen this cult classic film before?
I have not.
Nope.
Nope.
I have 5,000 times.
Okay.
I thought
That
I
was-
had.
That was Damien over all out in Radio Land. Derek, what'd you say?
I thought I had, but then it turned out that I had not.
Well, I had not really seen it. Of course, I knew who Robbie the Robot was. I guess it's just in my geek DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his first appearance on screen. So let me ask you this in general: are any of you sci-fi fans, generally speaking?
No.
That
I
me.
I am.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Yes!
Who was like, no, that was Deadly, right?
That was me. I hate sci-fi, and
Whoa.
it was hard. It was hard.
Who just gasped?
getting through this.
I
It was
did.
hard getting through this. It was hard getting through this.
I mean, he didn't just say I don't like it. I hate it.
I hate it.
Listen,
I hate it.
Oh,
I hate the
Deadly, I still
future.
love you, though.
Deadly, I hate it. I hate sci-fi. I
I
can't
hate it.
stand it. I can't. Oh, wow.
If I ever do to you.
So this movie is a classic, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a classic, and I'm going to shock you all just right off the bat, and just say that to me, it doesn't really fit in that same mold as a lot of the quote bad campy sci-fi movies
No.
that were out at the time,
No.
The Beast with 1,000 Eyes, or Amazon Women,
Yeah.
Catwoman on the Moon. To me, this movie kind of was like, for the time, was actually pretty, decently made. Even some of the special
Yeah.
effects I was impressed with.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, starring Leslie Nielsen,
Who
who
was kind of hot back in the day.
Right?
he aged very well.
Mm,
Leslie
I don't
Nielsen
know about
aged very
That
well.
cowlick is letting me have it. Oh,
Right.
I'm just saying.
Like, hey, young Leslie, I see you.
You were like, "Oh, let me see your naked girl, Leslie." Right? He aged very well.
He really did.
He really did age well, and but when I saw Leslie Nielsen's name, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm probably not even going to recognize him." I was like, right away. I mean, the same.
Oh, yeah.
He really didn't change a whole lot. He was not like, he didn't go through a kind of like Marlon Brando transformation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that they chose some of the special effects that they did rather than going with sort of the stuffed monster suit route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know Deadly hates science fiction, so I'm going to direct all my questions to him. So, Deadly, did you ever watch Lost in Space?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh,
Did you ever watch the original Star Trek?
No, hated Star Trek. I did see that this Star Trek definitely bit off of this because I saw that Beam Me Up stuff. I'm like, one of those two bit off each other. I don't know who did what first, but maybe this was the first Beam Me Up one.
This was about 10 years before Star Trek.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Even though
It's
it's
not
The only
easy.
space thing I've ever liked, is, and I forget, I think it was The Lost Saucer. It was with Ruth Buzzy and Jim Neighbors.
that was still.
Mm.
I should be ashamed of myself for knowing what this is, but that was like the far wacky space nuts or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Yeah,
That's-
that's the only space thing I've liked.
That's Sid and Marty Krofft. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well, I love Planet of the Apes, and that's close to sci-fi.
Mm,
No,
So
that's
there you
definitely
go.
sci-fi. That's
that's
definitely
more
sci-fi.
dystopian future. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's still
but
sci-fi.
it's funny. It's funny you should say that movie because at some point during this movie, I wanted to rename it Planet of the Rapes.
Oh my, listen.
Okay,
Listen. It is rapey. It is rapey.
That was so disturbing.
You
That
do
was,
not-
that was a
you do
moment
not
that was
adhere
so
to-
disturbing.
this is a sci-fi episode, so we're not going to adhere to linear time. We're going to just jump to where we want to go. Okay, we're just
Okay.
gonna punch holes in
So
space time.
I was worried for that girl. I mean,
Oh,
Me too.
literally for her upper lower region.
And the dad didn't even care.
right!
Like, what kind of dad is that? That you don't even prepare her.
Look how
Yeah.
orange you are. Look how you
Okay,
did.
Damien, Vanetta just took your spot and projected what I was thinking. Like
Right.
they were all they were like going to line up. I don't want to get.
Yeah, well, they were going to gangbanger. Yeah, it was.
Hey,
Okay,
them
you're
men
back-
were out
you're back in,
for
you're
outer
back in,
space
baby.
for 397 days, and you let them hang out with your scantily clad daughter. Are you crazy?
And she ain't got no shoes on.
Right.
And he didn't care, and he was just like, whatever, she'll be all right.
Yeah.
It was just, oh my goodness,
And
that
she
was
didn't even know what kissing was.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't even understand what being witty was. Like,
So
She knew what it
clearly
was
something
when
wasn't done.
Leslie
What
Nielsen-
she tested kissing with. I'm like, oh my god, this is disturbing. I can't.
she knew what kissing was when Leslie kissed her.
Right,
That's
because she
true.
had already been kissing
Because she
women
had
and
practice
God
at
knows
that
who
point.
else.
But she didn't like it.
12 other men.
She didn't like it with the other
There was
guy.
no stimulation.
Mm.
But she also said, she made that comment to Leslie Nielsen's character. Well, when I kiss you, it's not the same as when I'm kissing all the others.
Exactly.
right.
All of what others? Oh my
Exactly.
God. He got upset. He was like, no.
She was
Yeah.
like, okay,
You
we're
probably had
gonna
mono
get
at that point.
she's gonna get this the space cooties. Okay, we're gonna give her this. We're gonna give out an early award. Give her the Smurfette Award because it was only her and like how many of them.
All I know is that she was in danger at any given moment. The only person she was safe from was Bobby Robot.
Exactly.
And he was too busy giving himself a lube job.
Right.
Yes. I
To
called her. I
right.
was just like, oh my gosh.
Oh, he
you
did
just
say that. Give
He
myself an
really
oil
did.
job.
I was giving myself an oil check. I said, wow.
I was like, work it
Yeah,
out, robot. Work it
Robbie.
out.
Robbie was rubbing one out. Go for
Robbie was Robbie Rubs It. That'll be the name of my little alternative rock band. Good, great.
Quick fun fact.
What?
The actor that was inside the Robbie the Robot suit almost got fired for taking a 5 cocktail lunch one day. and falls over in the robot suit.
But he's funny because a lot of people get him mixed up with the robot from Lost in Space,
which I don't understand.
But they don't look alike
at all.
They don't.
Yeah.
People
all robots look alike to most people.
The robot. The robot had the fishbowl head, and it had the accordion arms.
Right.
And it rolled. He rolled. He wasn't walking on. He was too good to be walking. And he really did come across. He was drunk.
Right.
And he acted drunk. He was always flailing around, trying to protect that little boy from that evil gay man. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Leaving that poor child on some planet just like on his own. But yeah, this movie, I was like, let's talk about the special effects, like what worked and what didn't. Obviously some things they couldn't do, but there were some things I was kind of fascinated with. Like when you first see the salsa, you're like, oh my God, really? But when it landed, the light and the blue light,
yes,
was
nice. Because for me, I was able to take all of the effects in context. Right. And in context, they were great.
Yeah.
In context to the things that we had seen, even shortly after this movie. So I thought for its time that the effects were really good.
You could clearly see, that's the first thing I saw when I saw the spaceship. I said, okay, this influenced a whole decade of space shows that came after it. Because that is the same spaceship damn near from Lost in Space.
Yes. If you remember the original, Lost in Space had two openings. It had two openings. And one of them actually had a spaceship that was shaped like that spaceship. It had an animated thing kind of opening. What I thought was fascinating was some of the special effects that would kind of hold up, like when they were sort of supposedly in that shuttle and they were underground in the shuttle and you saw the lights. And I was like, that was really a good effect. You can tell when the practical effects were kind of, like the monster when he was walking in the feet and stuff like that. I mean, I thought they did it. When I look at an old movie like this, I'm like, did they do a good job of world building, or does it look like they're on a sound studio sound lot, in Burbank, But you did kind of feel like they were on some planet. That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, because it's like a lot of times I watch movies like this, and you can't help. I mean, knowing where special effects are today, you can't help but feel that the effects are cheesy. But this movie didn't give me that. No, it didn't give me that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the invisible monster thing they were fighting, the big old footprints and stuff. Sinking in the dirt.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah.
What was that? Just a monster? Was that a monster?
What was it?
That was the monster.
That was the id.
That was the id.
The id, yeah.
Oh,
monster of the id. And it was cool because in a way it also it made me think of the very first Alien movie, because you never really get a good look at what it is, but it's out there, but it's there and present enough to still scare the crap out of you, to know that there's something terrifying out there, even though you don't really see what it is. So that was I kind of like that they played it that way, that you never really get a good look at what it is that apparently killed all these people and was gonna be back to kill some more folks.
Yeah.
Did at any point? Go ahead, Vanessa.
Well, as an animation major, I really enjoyed the way that they created the effects of this transparent but slightly corporeal entity that they were shooting at. It was very nice, and I can tell like the ways that they did it, and it was really fun to look at because in school we learned about this type of animation that no one does anymore. So it's just really, it felt like a history lesson.
For some weird reason, it reminded me of Dormammu from Doctor Strange.
Yes,
I was like, wow. It was like, wow. It reminded me of Dormammu a little bit, the way they did it.
Well, you know what? Fun nerd fact about that monster in that movie, because I've seen this movie 1,000 times. It's sort of why I'm being quiet, because I love this movie. But the one thing, like if you've ever seen the old X-Men cartoon, the 90s X-Men cartoon, there's an episode where Lady Deathstrike and the Reavers come to open this spaceship. Yeah. And they don't know what's in the spaceship, and it just says danger on it in some other language. And when Lady Deathstrike scratches it, the same monster from this movie comes out of that spaceship, and it was a little homage to this movie because, before, the day the Earth stood still, or them, or Body Snatchers, before those movies, all of the sci-fi movies were really cheesy and corny looking, even after it. And during those times, the movies were really cheesy because they didn't have the budgets. Right. Whereas, when you had Ed Wood making a sci-fi movie, it was going to have, a vampire and an octopus, and then they were going to make it work. Whereas with this one, it so oversteps everything that you think about 50s sci-fi films, from the animation to the flying saucer, which looks cheesy in space, but once it lands and then they open the doors and the guys come out, you get a sense of scale, that the actual size of the spaceship, because of course it looks like a tiny little ship in space, but then once it lands and the people come out, it's like, oh wow, that's a really big fucking ship. So it's like it sort of blew my mind as a kid, because I totally had the preconceived notion that all those movies in the back then were so cheesy and corny, and everything, you could see the strings on everything, and even the inside of his laboratory where he had all those little gadgets and he made the steel doors come up and everything, is like those things, those little nuances in this movie are brilliant, and they totally changed the game as far as sci-fi is concerned. The day the Earth stood still started it, but this movie, I think that's why everybody remembers not seeing it, or thinks they remember seeing it, but not because it's so engraved.
It was so influential in so many other movies. Yeah,
Absolutely. We can't. TV shows, everything from. There are, just like I said, there are X-Men influences, there are Star Trek influences. There, you see everything in this movie, and it's like, wow, holy shit! This movie really changed the game for sci-fi on the big screen, and it's an important film. It's rapey.
Yes,
it's rapey, but
aside from the rapiness,
right. Yeah. Also, to that point, they really were trying to psych you out. In other words, they were trying to make you think, okay, because the doctor already says, he's like, there's something on this planet that's killing people. It killed all my shipmates and blah, blah, blah. I think they were trying to psych us out to make us believe that it was the girl.
Yes.
Because she was so robotic that either if it wasn't the girl, it was the girl's influence on the crew. So it's like they were maybe going to start attacking each other and kill each other over this girl, and it sort of psyched you out to make you think that was going to happen, and it didn't. Once the thing showed up, it was like, oh no, okay, so it's not, and you still kind of thought it was her.
But then that's the weird thing. That was one thing that kind of disappointed me, was that from the very beginning, I knew it was him. I didn't know how it was him, but I knew it was him. Right. And the rest of the movie was just like, okay, so how did he how did he do it? Because even in the very beginning, he talked about how, they voted against everything that he would have loved in terms of being able to stay on that planet with his wife. And it was like, oh, okay, so you really, really, really wanted to stay, and then everybody ended up dead but you.
One by one, everybody got bumped
right,
out.
so it was like, okay. So at that point, it was like, okay, you clearly have killed all these people, but how did you do it? Was the whole rest of the film. But even that didn't take away from it. It was just one of those things where I knew right out the gate that this man clearly killed all these people.
Or that he was maybe protecting the daughter and he couldn't take her back because she was the source of the...
She was the monster, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought that for a second. I'm like...
Because again, he had been there for quite some time. So was she even born at the time that they didn't really clarify when people died. Just eventually everybody died, and then his wife died of natural causes. When did she?
Well, he married his wife on the planet.
On the ship.
Right, but when was she born? Was she born?
Well, she's 19.
Right, was she a child?
She was 19, so immediately.
Yeah, he said he had been there 19 years.
Yeah.
And
so that why they
she couldn't have been more than 19.
Right, so that's why.
So his wife was pregnant on the ship, basically. So we've advanced so much that now we can travel pregnant women on spaceships, which
yeah, and that's why it being the girl that just never occurred to me because clearly all these people would have died at some point before she would have been
cognizant.
Yeah.
I hear you. I think even if she was a child and a monster. That's something they did in the 50s all the time. They made children monsters all the time, the Village of the Damned and, all those sort of demon child movies. Yeah, well, that was the 70s. But they always made, they didn't have a problem with making a child evil in the 50s. So that wouldn't have shocked me if they had sort of since she came out of the womb, she was killing people. You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't have shocked me at all.
For the purposes of the movie, that would have been a harder sell for me.
It would have been more of a horror movie than a sci-fi movie.
Right. That would have been a harder sell because in the context of the movie, how he ended up killing all of them, it just made it. It made perfect sense, even though I didn't know it at the time. By the time we got to the end, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. He was fucking around with these machines and, got his brain expanded and got so caught up in the fact that he wasn't trying to leave that it was like, okay, well, I'm going to subconsciously make sure that I don't have to leave. That means
he wasn't trying to leave and tell nobody about what I got here.
Right.
But I think the best thing about how they did it was, you do eventually go, well, he killed these people and you want to know how and why. The best thing they could have done, they did. They made it a separate entity rather than have him transform into some stuffed animal, costume, monster, and so that way they didn't have to put bad makeup on him or make him get into some costume and stuff. Right. It was really done really well.
Right. Can we talk about that coffee maker?
Go ahead, Detlef.
That coffee maker in the future is pretty whack. Come on, it looked like a little percolator or something.
Yeah.
What was that, man?
Right, the giant beaker.
Yeah.
Well, everything was pretty glassy and see-through and metally. As far as their idea of what 21st century technology was going to look like.
Yeah,
I think they got it all wrong. They got that all wrong.
A little bit.
Well, it is, according to them, it's the 21st, well, it's 2200 AD.
The end of the 21st century.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, well, we might end up going back to just using a regular pot and for Shit, the cook was talking about throwing it's like going on a planet with where all we can do is throw rock at the tin can and we have to bring our own tin can. And I'm thinking, okay, so y'all still using tin in the year?
Hey, excuse me, can I take a second to talk about the cook?
Oh,
yes,
Wade.
Sergeant Bill.
Yes,
Bill,
yes.
exactly. Yes, I know exactly who that was.
Who was way too involved in everything going on outside the kitchen.
What wasn't he though?
As someone who has been to culinary school, and has had to feed a number of people on the regular, you are the only person in the kitchen. You have 3 meals to prepare. All that time outside, touching things, talking to robots, drinking your drink, sipping your sip. You really ain't got time for that. You got shit to prep, dude. There's a little handle somewhere.
Gallons of whiskey made.
Right.
I just assume he had the robot helping him out.
He just pushed buttons. Yeah, he was back there just pushing buttons, though. Yeah, he wasn't really cooking anything because he never looked dirty enough to be cooking anything.
Right.
he was just back there pushing buttons for them, and he was a glorified button pusher.
Right. He was.
But
back there.
he was the first rapey acting person in the movie. Did you notice that?
Yes.
He was the first one.
I thought the doctor was more rapey than him, like right out the gate, because he was.
No, but he was the first one talking about where the women, where the
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no women, no pool halls. Y'all still playing pool in the year 2200? Help me understand.
Pool is
what is this future?
They made a spaceship. They couldn't figure out what games to play too. That was their imagination.
I mean, when you think about when like the show Lost in Space, when they went into space, wasn't it like 1987? Like it was like sometime. Like I had this argument with someone. It was like, no, it was way in the future. I'm like, well, in 1950 something, that was way in the future.
Yeah, I think it was like 1980. Yeah, I think it was
like
in the 80s.
1987 or something. It was you're like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most sci-fi shows and movies do take from the time that they were made. It wasn't like It wasn't like until Aliens where they like created a whole.
Well, Star Wars.
Yeah, but Star Wars had a lot of. 70s.
I would give it to Star Wars first.
Yeah, but I mean, it still had 70s sort of influences, and the hairstyles and the, some of the,
but like some of the conveniences in Star Wars, like being able to push a button and you get milk, or playing a chess game that's all a hologram, shit like that. It was like they weren't really thinking about that in the 50s. They were just like, okay, well, we can just play regular chess in the movie, right? Okay, well,
But what I like to point out about Star Wars is like Star Wars is not the future.
That is true.
Past.
It is it's a different universe.
It's probably
completely
in a civilization that already went through its cycle and died out even before ours started. You know what I mean?
This is true.
So I don't look at it, even though it had it had like chess and it had things that we would kind of recognize, but I always think of it as a civilization that came and went before ours even began, or whatever. But like with stuff like this and Lost in Space and Star Trek and stuff, they were very of the time. Yeah, very, very of the time.
Yeah.
But I thought this movie did kind of a good job of not coming across as too, because you didn't have like go-go boots and then that's more 60s. But you didn't have her like.
Well, she did look like a go-go dancer in that little dress she had on at first.
She designed herself.
That she designed herself with the robot's help. Because just telling him what you want on a dress does not make you a designer. Of course, that's what most people think is a designer right now. Anyway, but
she was a celebrity designer.
Right. Put rhinestones all over it and make it cover me from head to toe. I'm a designer.
She took a long white t-shirt and put a rip in it. I designed it.
And I'm sorry, there was some shade in his response to her too. Again.
Right.
She must have a new dress right away.
Yeah, he was not happy. He was not happy.
He's like,
girl. He's like, well, I got other shit I gotta be doing.
I could be moving myself right now.
Subtext in that again.
He was like, we got diamonds and rubies. You're gonna have to work with that because sapphires take too damn long to be.
For this man, you trying to impress.
Right. Oh, shit.
Can you explain what was that whole little point with the deer and the antelope singing and stuff out there? All that stuff.
I kind of felt like it was some kind of half attempt at them implying that they had created some new Garden of Eden kind of.
For the fact, yeah. She was innocent because notice she was innocent until she started kissing those men.
And then that tiger was gonna tear her ass up.
Decided to eat her face.
Yeah. There was an Eden allegory in that whole thing, like the whole serpent being, the idea of man or this. So yeah, there was definitely an allegory. I mean, it was a couple allegories in it. So
like
don't go to a prison rodeo in a short dress. That's sort of the other allegory.
Rapey.
These men have not seen a woman.
Right, Vanetta. Too bad they didn't have the other robot to be like
378 days.
So, and they tied
Will Robinson. Will Robinson. She would have been like, "Why is the robot calling me Will Robinson? Don't worry about it, girl. Just don't get raped." Yeah, it was like very, very odd for a moment there. But, and then there was also the allegory, like if you think a sin, then it makes it real, even if you don't think you committed it. That was kind of the Dr. Morbius thing. But okay, we talked about the effects. Which ones do you think were more effective? The practical effects, and correct me if I'm not using the right terminology, the practical effects, or like the animation and that those kind of effects?
I enjoyed the animation.
I don't know. I couldn't pick one over the other. I enjoyed them all for the most part.
Yeah, they worked well together, especially when you look at the spaceship landing. You see it landing and it's sort of wobbly on strings. But then that animation pops in and it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute.
Exactly.
I buy this, so it's sort of a combination of the two, with the monster coming through, trying to get through the gate, and they were shooting at him to get back. And you believe that thing is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you don't believe it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels tangible. It feels like it's sitting there because it's knocking over shit. It's knocking over trees, and it's not, you know what I'm saying? Which
kind of leads to my next question. And this happens in all types of media. I call it maybe this bullet will be the one. So we've been shooting this thing.
Wow.
We've been shooting this thing for 7 hours and 13 days. And it has not fallen over yet. So dude has already seen 2 people go down. So he decides he's going to run up on it closer. Because for some reason, his angle of shot is going to be, maybe it will be this shot.
And he got tossed.
Right. I'm going to be
by
the
the
one
Tasmanian devil.
I'm going to be the one that beats up Batman. Right? I'm going to be
Yeah.
the one
Yep.
that knocks,
Yep.
I'm going to be the one that knocks out Wolverine. All the other people saying that with no arms and legs cut off, they didn't know what they were doing. I'm gonna walk up and punch Wolverine in the face, and it's always that. But I was like, there was not. You got the sense that there weren't a whole lot of people on this mission.
It could only been like 25, 30 of them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I was gonna say 15, 20. Yeah.
Right. If that, why are they like lining up to get?
John was in command of 18 competitively selective super perfect physical specimens with an average age of 24.6 who have been locked up in hyperspace for 378 days.
Listen.
Well, that hyperspace was age their ass is 10 years.
Well, he said an average age. So some could be older, some could be younger. You never know.
That reminds me, at the beginning of the movie,
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, did any of the sound effects make anybody else's ears bleed?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it was the 50s. They had like 2 instruments that they used, and
Right.
like it was like the same. It was the same thing.
Somebody playing on a saw to make the sound.
I was like,
Yeah.
ow, 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 ow.
I just kept thinking, why the theremin? Please, no more theremin. It's just, you know.
So the one part where it looked a little bit like they were in a teleporter,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought
that
they were
was the only part where I was kind of like, okay.
That was like the
and I think it was
hypersleep.
because
Yeah.
and I think my brain has been, conditioned by Star Trek. It's like they're still there, It's just like they were in a broken transporter or something.
Right.
But
I like the music. I downloaded it already in my music. Yeah, I like that.
It was, and this was a movie that had the first completely electronic film score, electronic music score.
Yep.
I'm gonna play that when I'm sitting on the toilet.
Wow,
Oh, okay.
Right.
that was a very personal share there. Thank you.
And thank you. So anyway,
I think I love you just a little bit more for that.
Well, I mean, one thing I did like was that the movie wasn't scored like a typical 50s movie. It wasn't scored like a musical, or everything wasn't scored. Like, you turn to look and there was or someone's, she walks in and there's a violin solo, or
it's pretty atypical for the sci-fi films of the time. They weren't. I mean, the War of the Worlds had a huge score. Like, that thing was, dun 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 dun. Where like most of these in the late 50s, early 60s, they were real minimal. Like, it had like maybe a quartet, and then like people making sound effects, like it was like playing the theremin or the saw or something, or like it didn't have a TV score where it was like boom 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 wow. It wasn't
right.
It wasn't quite that bad, but it was like I don't know. It was pretty. I don't know. I thought it was. I don't know. It sounded like most of them that I'm familiar with, from like Night of the Blood Beast or like Horrors of Spider Island or any of those old movies. It sounded pretty much the same.
Well, I mean, for the time and for the type of movie it was not as melodramatic either. Like, there weren't like close-ups on her face where the screen was like glossed up, or
right.
She didn't scream with her hand in front of her mouth and stuff like that.
That's good. That's stupid.
And she never had a bubble helmet on either.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have a bubble helmet on when they can breathe the atmosphere. It's just like, I'm just wearing a bubble helmet because I can. Yeah. But if anything was kind of typical, and some of her outfits and stuff were a little,
Yeah.
Give them that.
Well,
so
some things they couldn't help,
Right, exactly.
Right.
But I think they threw away a lot of the tropes like you said, the bubble helmet, that never made any sense. Like, you're going on this planet where you are not supposed to breathe air, and then I guess I can breathe the air, and it's like, okay, well, you were doing fine in that bubble helmet, but then you look at the suit, and the bubble helmet doesn't really connect to the suit. So all they have is this thing on their head. Yeah. So
I never liked the bubble helmet, because where do you put it when you don't need it?
Right.
Listen. Like I said, they threw away a lot of those tropes. A lot of the
irrational again.
Yeah. They threw away a lot of that. So I think that's why I appreciate this one more than a lot of the other ones, because it did take risks and say, you know what? No, we're not going to do that, because that's stupid, and we don't want you to see the strings. Even though there is one part where you do see them for a minute, like when the dude gets sucked up by the magnet, the cook.
Yeah.
When he gets sucked up by the magnet, you can actually see the string just for a split second.
Yeah.
But through the rest of it, it's like, wow, I don't see. And there's a moment where you see the eclipse. That, to me, that was something that had never been done before in space. Usually it's just black and dots. But with this one, it actually showed them going around a sun. And it was like, wow, okay, that's different. That was real different. So, I don't know. I love this movie. Gushing.
And I agree when you said that I thought the practical effects and the animated effects did complement each other. Even though, there were certain ones where it's just like, okay, you realize at the time that they could only show the tiger being disintegrated. Even the way they did that was very, and that scene was actually really interesting.
Yeah,
to me. The scene when the tiger first showed up kind of made me like, whoa.
Did anybody else see through the tiger ever so briefly?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a little translucent, but they didn't have the ability to train tigers. Oh no, to not eat her.
Right.
Look, back in the 50s,
you would not go have that rational conversation with Tony at that time.
Look, back in the 50s was probably safer to have a live animal because you could beat them without getting PETA on your ass. It's now you got to wear.
Yeah, but you got to beat the tiger while he's got her in his jaws. Put her down. Put her down.
Right. Shaking her like a rag doll.
Bad tiger.
I saw that monkey got zapped. You see the monkey get zapped trying to get through?
Yes.
That little monkey was just like, why am I here?
They used some kind of dart gun or something to scare the hell out of that monkey.
This is not Disney. Somebody call my agent.
This is not what you promised me.
They told me this was Pippi Longstocking, and they got me on some damn planet. No, Pippi Longstocking came after that. So we talk about why are you laughing at me? Who's laughing at me? Is that Disney?
I'm laughing at you too. I'm laughing with you.
So when we talk about influences, my first thing that comes to my mind when I watch this is Lost in Space, because Lost in Space you can just see it like clearly lifted from this.
Yep. Yeah. Verbatim.
Yeah. And you wonder. I mean, but a lot of the sci-fi back then was a lot of it was similar. I mean, Lost in Space was basically based off of Robinson Crusoe.
Right.
Or the Swiss Family Robinson.
Swiss
Family Robinson, just like in space. But I mean, like a lot of the look of the show and stuff was kind of reminded me of this, even though I think this had better effects.
The suits were very similar. The uniforms that the crew wore were very similar to some of those fashion choices that the Robinsons wore on Lost in Space.
Yeah.
But then they switched to like velour, like crushed velvet, like V-necks, crushed velvet kind of looks.
Like the tight ass pants.
Yeah.
That left nothing to the imagination.
Pulled up to their navel. Oh, those pants left something to the imagination, because they used to make people wear 2 or 3 pairs of underwear back then.
That's true. That's true.
Everybody
had a vagina.
Yeah, everybody had camel toe or moose knuckle.
I bet whatever you want to call
it. Moose knuckle. So
I'm sure Guy Williams had to wear something in the front, because I just have the feeling that Guy Williams was not shortchanged in this life or the next.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
never thought about Guy Williams in that way.
Really?
Well, no.
And
I mean, even when he was Zorro?
No.
Even when he was what?
Zorro.
Oh. Well,
no,
no comment.
no.
Yeah.
Everybody don't have a Zorro family. That's okay.
The cheese stands alone.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying. That Lost in Space, like even with the doctor, like with Dr. Zachary, what's it, Dr. Zachary Smith?
Dr. Smith.
Like,
Yes.
and then the robot, and then like it was like they saw the movie and they were like, okay, how much of the rights can we steal? Like, 'cause we need to use so many things in that. I mean, the kid got on my damn nerves in that show. I hated Lost in Space because of that kid mainly.
The funny thing is, Lost in Space, when that show was made, it actually was a hit show. Star Trek was never a hit show. Lost in Space was a hit show. It got better ratings. It and Lost in Space they were all huge stars. Even Angela Cartwright and the kid, the two kids were huge stars. Right. And of course, you had June Lockhart and the other characters who also, I don't know how popular. What's her name? Marta Hanson or something. The girl.
Yeah.
I don't know if she was a huge
Marta Kristen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody else on the show were huge stars. So
yeah, it just didn't age as well as Star Trek.
No,
but
it's a hard watch now. It is hard to watch Lost in Space now. Star Trek I can sit through.
Yeah, and I loved it for its time. But yeah, I can't watch it. I can't watch it again the way I could watch.
I tried. I went on Hulu and said I'm gonna watch it from the beginning, and I didn't last very long.
Yeah, that's a hard.
Once the nostalgia wears off, right? It's kind of like
exactly.
But I can watch Bewitched every day.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Now you all know that there is going to be a new Lost in Space on Netflix.
No, don't do it.
So, but you know what? First of all, it's Netflix. Netflix tends to do pretty good.
No.
Second of all, they're changing some things up. Dr. Smith is going to be a woman, played by Parker Posey. I'm kind of looking.
Let's just remember, for every Luke Cage, there is a Hemlock Grove.
At least 5 Hemlock Groves. Like Netflix has, like they have. No, listen. Like they have a hit, and then they got 20 misses. It's like like I have sat like all day and tried to sit through an episode each of something that was on Netflix. I'm like, oh my god, Netflix is horrible. Because it's like, I mean,
a Netflix original though, or did they just pick it up?
What, Hemlock?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know because I don't watch TV anymore. But
some of the shows that are Netflix originals aren't really. They're like exclusive to Netflix, but they aren't made by Netflix. Right. But then you have the ones that are actually made by Netflix, and those are the ones that tend to be pretty good, actually.
But they have to greenlight them. Like they have to be like, yeah, okay, we want that on our channel. And if you say some shit like that, and then you put it on your channel, then it's a Netflix show.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, for example, made by Tina Fey.
Yes.
They shot it and everything, and it was supposed to be on NBC. But NBC saw it and said, we don't really have any place for this because, we're NBC and we're in 5th place, and we really can be picky and choosy. And so Tina Fey shopped it around, and Netflix said, oh, this is great, we'll buy this. And they did, and it was a smash.
Yeah. Yeah. Then there's some other shit.
I'm going to get a list from you later on of what the other shit is. Not right now, but later on.
There's so many bad shows on that channel. I I like Netflix for what they're doing, but just like with any other channel on television, you get one or two shows that are just amazing, and then the rest of them are filler. And Netflix is no different. It's just, you know,
Right.
they just happen to have more options.
Well,
shit.
you know, you got like those shows that like I like Sense8. You know, I know a lot of people don't watch it, but I like it.
Sense8 was that was fierce. That was fierce.
That was awesome.
So there's been kind of a return to like space movies lately. Like people sort of being stranded in space or lost in space or being woken up out of their cryogenic sleep and having dates in space. And it's kind of a move away from like the monster of the week kind of sci-fi, which I kind of like. You know, I like, you know, alien type stuff. Do you think that sci-fi is getting watered down, other than the whole Star Trek, Star Wars stuff, which to me is kind of?
I don't think so. I looked at some of the offerings that the Sci-Fi Network has, the Sci-Fi Channel has, and I said, okay, I don't like everything you're doing, but I'm glad you're going in that direction. Because for a long time, and I understand they were run by someone who, NBC again, at some point put somebody in charge of the Sci-Fi Channel who didn't like science fiction. And that's how we got wrestling and all that other stuff wonderful. But whoever's in charge of it now is a sci-fi person. They've greenlit a bunch of stuff. And again, I don't like everything that they're doing, but it's all in that realm, so I can appreciate it.
I agree. I think after Firefly...
And I enjoy any time they take chances.
Yeah.
Yes.
After Firefly, it seemed like they were quitting. It just seemed like with the cancellation of Firefly, it was like, damn, you have a good sci-fi show here. It's like diversity thick. Like you have all these different types of people on this show, and then you cancel it after the first season and put out a movie that barely did the same numbers. And then they were like, okay, well, no, we're not going to do it anymore. And it's like, oh, okay. And then they started doing shit like the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and it was like, what is this nonsense? It's just they were taking the easy road by stealing from films and trying to make TV shows out of them instead of just creating new and exciting TV shows, which is what they're trying to do now, which makes a lot more sense. I don't agree with everything that they're doing. I think some of that shit is mad corny and way too convoluted, and just sort of the way TV is now, where they stretch out one story over 10 episodes. It's definitely not what it used to be, where you could have each episode had a different story. It all has Game of Thrones syndrome, where it's got to all be one giant cinematic universe. And I blame a lot of that on Marvel. Marvel has made it okay for sci-fi to all interconnect, and we all have to be the continuity has to be this, and they're more concerned about that than they are about just making good stories around good characters.
But how can you blame Marvel?
Yeah, I was going to say
Marvel did it, and Marvel did it. And Marvel did it well, and they didn't tell everybody.
No, I'm not saying they're not doing it well. I'm just saying that everybody's trying to do that.
Yeah, they didn't tell DC to run out and try to make a.
I ain't even talking about DC. Let's not even. I'm not gonna. DC. They got their head up their ass. I ain't even talking about DC, but I'm just talking about sci-fi shows in general are taking that trope and trying to recreate it instead of just doing what they do best.
You know what it is? I think a lot of the sci-fi shows, they wanted to move away from that whole monster of the week formula. So they wanted to make more expansive storylines. They didn't want to do the Alien of the Week thing,
Cliffhangers keep people coming back.
you can still do that and still have an expansive storyline, but you got to have good writers to pull it off.
Yeah, and then there's that.
But okay, so we look at the evolution of sci-fi movies like this, Forbidden Planet, which is very 50s, and then we have newer movies like Starship Troopers, that was based on a very old type of sci-fi too, right. and it can still work. I mean, you just have to you definitely have to update the female characters because,
yeah.
Usually they were either just there as whatever objects of everyone's desire or objects to be rescued and then be everyone's object of desire, So, with that being said, this movie was actually nominated for some big awards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Effects, Special Effects, Arnold Gillespie, Irving G. Rice, and Wesley C. Miller. It was also an Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films USA, a Saturn Award nominee. Oh, that's from 2007? Wow. Best DVD Classic Film Release, and the National Film Preservation Board USA National Film Registry winner in 2013. So people still appreciate this movie. So why don't we give out a few awards of our own? Yay? Nay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to start it off with the worst use of nudity.
Oh. Altera's little swim scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not really.
Right.
She was giving you faux nudity.
Yes.
It was kind of a mess.
Real nudity in that, wasn't it?
Hey, that had never been done before. So
like I'm naked, wink, wink.
How about the probably would have a feminist icon award. We haven't given that out in a minute. There is no feminist icon in this movie.
There is
the doctor. The doctor was kind of femme.
No, he was not a feminist icon, though. I'd say the robot was closer to that.
This is word. Yeah, that's word.
What about the diva? I think the robot might have won the diva award too.
Oh, absolutely.
And the best read.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he told that girl again, that was the read for me.
I was like, Miss Robot, you better throw
I'm writing for you 3 times. Where were you?
You better throw Robot shade. So, okay, we have to have what was the That's So Retro moment.
Would be the coffee.
Oh yeah, that coffee pot.
Yeah.
That percolator.
I would say that in Altera.
Mm.
She was just retro. She was giving you
and she didn't have shoes on.
Ever. At all.
I don't know why it bothered me so, but it did.
I understand that.
Because she was
Eve. She was Eve. She didn't wear shoes. She didn't understand shoes.
But she could whip, but the hair was wet.
About her shoe.
But the hair was wet.
But her hair was beat.
But
everybody had Brill cream in their hair in this movie.
What was the most shocking moment?
When Leslie Nielsen blamed that girl for her possible rape.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. It told her it would have served her right if they had all raped her.
It would have served her right.
They drugged you out back and had you. It would have been all your fault.
Y'all, he did not say it like that. Y'all act like he
did.
He did say that.
Yeah. And when
he was chastising her like a child.
Only person, not just man, the only person she has ever been around in her teenage and adult life is her father, who was never gonna touch her. And now
her daddy kissed her on the cheek. I saw her daddy kiss her on the cheek.
Yes, on the cheek. Very father knows better. And now you are blaming this child for dressing in the clothes that she always dresses in because y'all didn't come up in her house to possibly rape her.
Right.
Okay. So are we?
I guess the big question is, how would she even know how to dress like that?
Right.
Like, you don't know what women wear. How do you even? Okay.
Are they talking? So are we talking about what the people like to call now slut shaming? Is that what he was doing to her?
Yes.
Yeah, he was slut shaming her. Yeah.
That was
you
shocking.
come around here dressed like that, then you deserve to be raped. Okay.
Right,
Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you,
What was
Donald
it?
Trump.
Oh Lord! And speaking of pussies, what about the cat jumping at her face? That was kind of shocking. And this tiger diving for her head. That was kind of shocking moment.
Yeah.
You know.
Not dabbing.
So, who was the Queen of Shade? Oh, we already gave the vote about that one. Dr. Morbius was kind of a shady queen, though.
Yeah, she was real under the umbrella. Like first.
He was. I mean, certainly in the respect that he was like, okay, I need you girls off my planet as soon as possible.
Right.
Get your shit done and hit it.
We did forget a very good read when Dr. Morbius came out of the lab and he said, "The silver's in the kitchen."
Yes.
and her jewels on her dresser.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think Dr. Morbius and the robot were bumping purses the whole movie. You know, them two were bumping purses the whole movie. You know, so they both get the Queen of Shade Award. So the sexiest moment. This is our final category. The sexiest moment.
When the cook looked at Robbie the robot for bringing him all that booze.
Right, for bringing him all that booze.
You didn't think when the robot said he was late because he was giving himself a
lube job.
It was a romance.
So, because that was self-love.
And that's not sexy.
And when the cook, it can be, but
not all the time.
Really,
not all the time.
Really, and even said, anytime you need something, I'm there to do it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a bromance. It was definitely a bromance going on, budding.
Okay.
Kind of hot.
Well, there's already been a movie called Power Tools, so we'd have to think of another name for the robot in the Cook's movie title if they made one. All right, y'all. So let's rate this one on a scale from 1 to 10 marshmallows. Let's start with you, Deadly.
I feel bad even voting because I'm not a big sci-fi, but I was gonna give it a 4, but then I dropped it down to a 3 because I was thinking about their tacky gray costumes that weren't even cute.
They were well.
So I'm giving it a 3. Giving it a 3 marshmallows.
Quite fitted.
Yes, they were well.
He had to say, why did he have to add the not even cute? After you said tacky and gray, you didn't even have to add the not even cute up there.
Those shoulder pads things were not working, whatever those things clipped on there.
All right. Okay, Vanetta.
I think that I was probably going to give it a 5 marshmallows because it wasn't my favorite movie, but I can see all the other movies that came off of it. And Gene Roddenberry even interviewed and said that this was his inspiration. So I thought that that was a good starting point.
Okay. Let's go to Legionnaire.
I would have to give it. I would have to give it an 8.5 because I really did enjoy the movie. I really liked being privy to, a piece of cinema that influenced so much. I mean, of course, Star Trek was majorly inspired. But it also, touched, something like Doctor Who. And we had, because I'm a huge TV watching individual, it was cool seeing Earl Holliman, who was in Policewoman, Sergeant Bill Crowley. And we also saw Oscar Goldman.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep, he was Captain Quinn. Richard Anderson. So all those little nuggets as well kind of really made this great viewing for me.
Derek?
I'm going to give it 6 marshmallows. 5 for pretty much everything Vanetta said. It almost verbatim. I can see where all the other influences of shows that I actually liked came from. This one wasn't that hot for me. And the extra marshmallow is for what Legionnaire said about seeing all of these people that I grew up watching. Because I was a huge biography fan. And I was like, oh my God, that's Richard Anderson. Is James going to show up? Because that would have helped. But she didn't.
Jamie was too busy fighting the Sasquatch. I would have been satisfied if Shaolin had shown up. Stephanie Powers, not Sandy Duncan. No shade to Sandy Duncan. But Stephanie Powers was the answer. Okay. I'm gonna give the movie 7 stars because I enjoyed it. I liked the effects. I thought it was well acted. It wasn't too much melodrama, and I like the pacing of it. And I really enjoyed it. I might bump it up to 7.5 actually. Okay, so last but certainly not least, Damien Nova.
Yeah, because you forgot about me for a second. That's all right.
Listen. Okay, so look, I was so glad that you actually liked something that we reviewed.
That's not fair. That's not.
It might not be fair, but it's true. So
I liked things that we did. The last time I was on the show, we did Christmas stuff. I don't like Christmas, so whatever.
I didn't forget about you. So
I am a sci-fi purist, and I feel like this movie influenced so many things, and it's so good for the time that it came out. It's so well acted. It's the special effects are kind of amazing for the time, and I would give it a solid 9.5 marshmallows.
Wow!
And it only loses a half point because of the rapiness. but pretty much everything in the 50s, 40s, and 30s had some sort of rape in it. But the idea behind it, just everything about it is just something that I can watch over and over and over again. And I love this movie hard.
All right. I can watch it again too. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it. All right, everyone. It's time for everyone to report back to their cabins. Your bunk beds are waiting for you. Join us next time for a brand new installment of Summer Camp. Once again, here's one of our campers on our PA system with a few announcements on how you can interact with us via social media.
Thank you for the intro. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychularadio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Poppy Chulo Radio Summer Camp and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/PCR Summer Camp. Follow us on Tumblr, summercamp-pcr.tumblr.com. Follow Poppy Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube at Poppy Chula Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychularadio.com. Help support Poppy Chula Radio financially by visiting GoFundMe.com/PoppyChulaRadio. Help support Poppy Chula Radio financially by visiting GoFundMe.com/PoppyChulaRadio. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chula Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@poppychularadio.com. Now, back to you, camp counselors.
Thank you. My fellow camp counselors, please wish our campers and the listeners a good night.
Go give yourself an oil job.
A lube job.
What do you think I've been doing the whole show?
Remember, campers, if you do not speak English, I am at your disposal with 187 other languages, along with their various dialects and subtongues.
Oh.
All right.
I'm going to go get into this Kentucky bourbon. And luckily, I will not have a hangover tomorrow.
Bye.
He said bye. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Good night and lights out.